In 2025, Kevin Durant passed LeBron James to become the highest earning player in NBA history. $598 million in career salary, more than anyone else that has ever stepped foot on an NBA court. The crazy part, he did it by turning down the biggest contracts the NBA offered him over and over again. For nearly 2 decades, while every other star player locked in the longest deal they get, Durant kept signing the shortest ones possible, deals that looked like he was gambling his entire career away. But he wasn't. Durant was running a negotiation tactic so simple that almost anyone who earns a paycheck can use. And for years, no other player in the NBA was. That said, Durant's record-breaking NBA salary is still the least interesting money he's ever made. While the world spent a decade watching him play on the court, Durant was quietly building a multi-8-figure business empire while no one else was watching. This is the story of a kid who couldn't afford his first pair of basketball shoes and had to play in used women's sneakers, became the highest earning player to ever play the game, and built one of the sharpest investment operations professional sports has ever seen. All right, let's get into it. Phase 1. Before the money, there was a funeral. To really understand Kevin Durant, you have to start in his hometown, Seat Pleasant, Maryland. His father left before Durant turned 1, leaving his 21-year-old mother, Wanda, to raise 2 boys on a postal worker's paycheck. Money was tight, and they consistently bounced from one apartment to another. For Kevin, this meant a new school every few years. New classrooms, new neighborhoods, new faces. Every time he started to get acclimated and made friends at school, he ultimately had to leave them when his family needed to move. Years later, Durant admitted that he barely had any friends growing up, and any that he did have were consistent rotating cast of surface-level relationships due to the living situation. Because of this, basketball became the one place that never changed. It was the one place where he felt like he belonged and could always count on being there for him. That being said, money was so tight for the Durants at home that the only basketball shoes Wanda could sometimes afford came from the women's section. For the first years of his basketball journey, Kevin played in Lisa Leslie's sneakers simply because they were cheaper. Around the same time, Kevin began practicing basketball at the Seat Pleasant Recreation Center. A coach named Charles Craig took Kevin under his wing. Charles asked if Kevin wanted to try out for the 9 and under rec basketball team. That single question changed Kevin's life. After he made the team, Terrace Brown, another coach at the rec center, started to train Kevin as well. Kevin and Terrace became so close that Kevin began to refer to Brown as his godfather. Brown and Craig basically raised Kevin. They fed him, drove him home at night from games, and let him sleep on their couches when he needed to. Brown trained Kevin in a way that made no sense to a kid who just wanted to play. Brown had 2 unconventional rules for Kevin: no pickup games and no scrimmaging. So while every other kid in the gym was playing 3-on-3 games, Kevin was stuck on the boring stuff, drilling the same fundamentals over and over. Some of his practices even started with a full mile of bear crawls around a field before he was even allowed to touch basketball. Brown made him study film, read, and write out the 6 steps of a jump shot 500 times by hand. But then, in 2005, everything changed. Charles Craig, one of the coaches who had helped raise Kevin, was shot and killed after trying to break up a fight outside a sports bar. He was 35 years old, and from that day on, Durant always wore the number 35 on the court to honor Craig. Phase 2. The $100 million contract loophole no one else saw. Fast forward a few years of non-stop dedicated focus to basketball, and Durant has made his way inside the NBA draft. Seattle grabbed Kevin as the number 2 draft pick, and he went on to have one of the most insane rookie seasons the NBA has ever seen. Durant was Rookie of the Year that very first season in the NBA at just 19 years old. He averaged over 20 points a game, something that only LeBron and Carmelo Anthony had ever pulled off as teenagers, and Kevin's rookie year also happened to be Seattle's final season before the franchise packed up and rebranded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This franchise change would set up what would soon become a generational run of unprecedented contract negotiation strategy by Durant and his manager, Rich Kleiman, that ultimately would result in Durant becoming the NBA's highest career earner in history. Most NBA players take the biggest, longest deal they can get from a franchise. They lock in the money, enjoy the job security, and move on. But Durant did the exact opposite. Rich Kleiman pushed Durant to sign shorter deals with franchises, often only 1 or 2 years at a time. And Kleiman and Durant paired those short-term contracts against Kevin Durant's rising popularity and success on the court. So every time the league's value went up, Durant would have a window to go back to the negotiation table once his short-term contract had expired and push the franchise to re-sign at the new higher number, or he could potentially walk. Instead of locking into one long-term contract at yesterday's prices, Durant just kept harvesting raises at the current market rate. Across 3 years with Golden State, this strategy earned Durant $167 million, more than the previous 5-year contract he'd signed before arriving there. Stretch that across 8 contracts in nearly 2 decades, it's made Kevin Durant the highest career earner in the NBA history. By 2025, Durant officially passed LeBron in total career earnings at a staggering $598 million. And today, he's still adding onto that total. Real quick, if you're still watching, you're not here for the basketball highlight reels. You're here to understand how money actually works. That's what we do every week. We take the biggest names in sports and entertainment and break down the financial machine behind them. So hit subscribe because we have a ton of videos in production already and you will not want to miss them. Now, speaking of basketball highlights, everything Durant earned on the court is only half the story because his smartest financial decision had nothing to do with basketball. It all came down to his zip code. Phase 3, the zip code worth more than an NBA championship. In 2016, Kevin Durant made the most controversial decision of his entire NBA career, but it was also the smartest financial decision he ever made. In 2016, Durant left the Oklahoma City Thunder and signed with the Golden State Warriors, the team that had just won a record-breaking 73 games in a single season and knocked the Thunder out of the playoffs the season before. The internet lost its mind. To almost everyone, it looked like Kevin Durant was abandoning ship to chase an NBA ring he couldn't win on his own. But what nobody realized was that Kevin Durant joining the Warriors not only put him on a better team, it put him in the Bay Area, just minutes from Silicon Valley. And Kevin, the former awkward kid, found his people. He spent birthdays at the home of venture capitalist Ben Horowitz. He found himself at an Apple executive's house talking with Tim Cook and Pharrell. When asked why he connected so well with the tech world, Durant stated founders and entrepreneurs build things from the ground up, just like athletes. So they relate to each other in regards to how much work it takes to be the best at what you do in the market. Most of them also came from humble beginnings, just like Durant did. The kid who grew up wearing shoes from the women's aisle now found himself in rooms of billionaire founders, most of which started in similar place to himself. That first year, Durant and Kleiman launched 35 ventures. Phase 4, the agent who owns a piece of everything. This is where you need to understand who Rich Kleiman is and what separates him from the typical NBA agent. A normal NBA agent negotiates a player's contract, takes a 4% fee, and then has no stake in anything else that the player does. Kleiman did the opposite with Durant. He's not just a hired hand, he's a co-founder and a partner in the entire Durant business. The more Kevin's empire grows, the more his money does as well. And that one detail changes everything. By Durant making his agent a direct partner instead of an employee, every decision Kleiman makes on behalf of Kevin is always about the long game, not just the next paycheck. 35 Ventures made its first move with Postmates. In 2016, Kevin invested $1 million into the food delivery app. Durant became one of the company's biggest promoters. Postmates branded Durant as its biggest delivery guy, and he used his frame and personal brand to pull in the exact customers the company had been spending millions to chase previously. So it wasn't really Kevin betting on Postmates, it was Postmates betting on Kevin and handing him cheap equity to do so. In 2020, Uber bought Postmates for $2.65 billion, and Kevin's $1 million investment was now valued around $15 million, a 15x return on his money in only 4 years. Then came Coinbase, and this traces straight back to Durant's Silicon Valley connections. In 2017, back when the market and consumers were still very skeptical of crypto, 35 Ventures bought into Coinbase at a $1.6 billion valuation. 4 years later, Coinbase went public at $86 billion, and Kevin's stake was up roughly 54 times. But Durant's biggest return of all time is Whoop, the personal fitness tracker. Kevin's firm got in early, back in 2017, when the whole company was valued at $125 million. Instead of cashing out as the company's value grew, Durant kept doubling down, buying more and more and more as the company's valuation climbed, and he never sold a single share. By 2026, Whoop was valued at $10.1 billion, with millions of members paying for its health subscription every month, which puts Kevin's stake up over 80x on paper, and he still hasn't cashed a dime of it. By now, you could probably start to see Kevin's investment pattern unfolding. Kevin continues to choose future value over immediate money, and that's how he approached startups too. Durant used his network to get on the cap table early and his fame to promote the businesses he invested to his audience to increase their valuation. Kevin did the same thing with his Nike deal, which is a masterclass in business and marketing on its own. Phase 5, $300 million phone call. Back when he was an NBA rookie in 2007, Adidas offered Durant around $80 million for a shoe deal. At the same time, Nike offered around $60 million for a similar deal. Most 19-year-olds would have taken the bigger upfront paycheck, but Durant took the Nike deal, leaving $20 million on the the table because he believed Nike would build the bigger brand around him in the long run. 7 years later, that bet was put to the test. In 2014, Under Armour came to Durant's table with a monster exclusivity deal worth around $285 million. They didn't just want to cut Kevin a check and have him do a few advertisements. Under Armour pitched Durant the future of the company, showing him how the company's stock had grown and promising to make him the face of the brand. They even offered to build a community center in his hometown named after his mother. This was one of the biggest endorsement offers an athlete had ever received. Durant called Nike and gave them one chance to match it, and they did. Nike agreed to a $300 million deal over the next 10 years, and Durant never left. That decision then paid off again in 2023, when Nike gave Durant something they had only previously given Michael Jordan and LeBron, a lifetime deal. Nike has never revealed the value amount of that deal, but some unverified reports estimate that it's valued at just over $500 million. Money that will keep paying Durant long after he plays his final NBA game. Now, most athletes would have announced a major deal like that on their Instagram or let ESPN break the news. Kevin did neither. He announced the Nike deal on Boardroom, the media company that he owns. And that brings us to the smartest piece of the entire Durant machine. The machine that feeds itself. So what exactly is Boardroom? Back in 2019, Durant and Kleiman launched it under 35 Ventures as a sports business media company. Boardroom covers the money side of sports, the contracts, the equity deals, the sneaker negotiations, the team sales, the exact machine Durant had been quietly operating inside for a decade. It started as a show on ESPN Plus and grew into a full network, a website, podcast, newsletters, and video series where athletes, founders, and executives sit down and talk about how the business actually works. That access gives Kevin a front row seat to opportunities long before they reach everyone else. Those opportunities turn into investments. Those investments become stories on Boardroom. Those stories build influence, and that influence opens up more doors. It's a fortuitous cycle where every piece feeds the next. Nearly every athlete on the planet gets covered by the media. Durant owns the media covering the very industry he's investing in. And apart from all of this, Durant is also laddering into teams in the same way. He holds a 5% stake in the Philadelphia Union, a piece of Gotham FC, a stake in PSG, one of the biggest soccer clubs in the world, and even a pickleball team. None of these are majority controlling stakes, but neither were Postmates, Coinbase, or Whoop. Getting in early has been the strategy all along, and time after time, it's paid off. Now, Kevin wasn't just randomly investing in companies. He was reading the game early and investing while the odds were still cheap, and kept being right about it. If you've ever felt like you could already see the outcome before everyone else, there's finally a place to trade on it, thanks to today's sponsor, Polymarket. Polymarket is a prediction market platform where users can trade on the outcomes of real-world events. Polymarket lets you trade shares with other users in an open market exchange. Polymarket is now live on the App Store, and you can trade on literally anything, like who will win the next NBA championship, whether or not the Warriors will make the playoffs, or if Kevin Durant will win one more ring before he retires. Trade prices are valued on the market's belief in the probability of a given event occurring. All trades are settled through smart contracts on the blockchain, ensuring you always have control of your funds. Sports, news, politics, pop culture, you can trade on all of it. Download Polymarket on the App Store today and start trading. All right, let's get back to Kevin, because this is where things really start to get interesting. Phase 7, the $1 billion scoreboard. Kevin Durant is well on his way to becoming a billionaire, and he won't get there from just basketball alone. Over the course of his NBA career, Durant earned close to $850 million before taxes through salary and sponsorships. But after taxes, spending, and everything else, his net worth is estimated to be worth around $300 to $400 billion. And on paper, if you value all of his private investments at their latest valuations, they would be worth an estimated $750 million. But much of that wealth is still on paper, not liquid cash. Whoop hasn't been sold, his stakes in sports teams aren't easy to cash out, and Kevin knows firsthand the number of athletes who earn fortunes only to lose them later in life is surprisingly more than people might think, which is exactly why Kevin has created an empire that will keep growing long after he steps off the court for the last time. Phase 8, the playbook minus the jump shot. I know you're not Kevin Durant, I'm certainly not Kevin Durant, but here are still 2 key business lessons you can take away from his story. The first is to climb the salary game the way he negotiated. This applies to most people with valuable skills. Durant almost never signed the longest contract on the table. He kept his deals short, left himself options, and every time the market moved, he reset his value. Your career works the same way. The second lesson is that it's not always about taking the biggest paycheck. Kevin once walked away from roughly $30 million because he believed a different opportunity would be worth more in the long run. And he was right. This has been the Kevin Durant Portfolio Breakdown. My name is Buster. I'll see you next time. Peace.